When I first heard of Klonoa, I didn't know what to think. I kept staring at this anthropomorphic animal thinking the game was a Digimon spin-off. Many years later and a remake, I finally gave these underrated PlayStation games a shot. Klonoa Phantasy Reverie is developed by Monkeycraft and published by the folks at Bandai Namco. A 2-pack of remasters of the original Klonoa Door to Phantomile for the PlayStation 1 and Klonoa 2 Lunatea's Veil on the PlayStation 2. Now, whenever there's talk of remakes, a lot of people are concerned with how faithful these will be. A lot can go wrong in the process. Stray too far and you risk alienating the core audience that fondly remembers the original. Stick too close to the original and you run the risk of audiences complaining or not showing enough interest in the finished product. However, if you strike that perfect balance of replicating what was beloved in the past and infusing it with modern sensibilities, improving on a solid foundation, well, you've got yourself a winner. These remakes were released for the franchise's 25th anniversary, bringing back two underrated classics in updated graphics running at 60 frames per second with added features that enhance the experience like difficulty options and 2-player co-op. This platformer series excelled in the 2.5D plane as you run side to side, platforming and defeating bad guys to advance to the next stage. By using the main character's wind ring, you are able to engage with your surroundings a lot more than the platformers of the time, allowing you to grab, throw, and use your enemy to solve puzzles and fight bosses. So the first game I tried is of course Klonoa Door to Phantomile. This was released back in 1997. One of the things that I immediately gravitated towards with these remakes was the art. The original, while beaming with personality and a great color palette, definitely shows its age. Released for the original PlayStation, Klonoa is presented with that 2.5D perspective, 3D environments, but played on a 2D plane. This new remake polishes the character designs and background to create quite the wholesome experience. The game takes place in Phantomile, a land fueled by dreams people have at night. An anthropomorphic animal called Klonoa has been having dreams about an airship crashing into a nearby mountain, and one day an airship does indeed crash into the mountain. Klonoa and his friend, a ring spirit named Huepo, decide to investigate. They find a dark spirit named Gadius on the mountain searching for a magical moon pendant so he can turn Phantomile into a world of nightmares. When I first began the game, the 2.5D perspective really made for a fun and odd experience. I am so used to either 2D or early 3D platforming in my retro games that it took me a bit to get accustomed to the different perspectives. Having the camera shift around the background as you traverse the level, ascending and descending spiral-shaped buildings, or going through trees and waterfalls was actually really fun and great. It is a very vivid, lush world with a unique batch of enemies. I mean, sure, they all look like monsters from different franchises, but there's a je ne sais quoi about it that makes it uniquely Klonoa. I will say, the game isn't that difficult. Each stage can easily be traversed in no time. The enemies can be easily dispatched without much skill. I had it set to normal, but bumped up the difficulty and it all pretty much stayed the same for me. That isn't necessarily a bad thing. Your game can be easy, but a lot of fun to experience. As you use the wind ring to grab, throw enemies, and progress through the stage, the game readies you to confront the stage bosses. Now, nearly all of them are not that difficult and rather simplistic. You would have to time your shot and damage the foe 3 to 5 times before being taken out completely. It wasn't until literally the final vision or stage in the game where I began to confront some difficulty, or rather annoyance, at the sheer amount of platforming in the vacuum of space. Visually, I love the anime/manga aesthetics going on with Klonoa, and the character has a great look to him that will appeal to most audiences. Sure, some of the character models and animation might seem a little outdated, but this game is boasting with charm. Between the hilarious made-up language and the surprisingly dark undertones of life, death, rebirth, and melancholy, I was having a great time going through Door to Phantomile. However, it took a turn for the better with Lunatea's Veil. Similar to the first game, this one features your standard platforming action and boss fights with the same 2.5D with 3D elements, but also introduces board riding stages and cleaner character models. This remaster, which is based on the unsuccessful Wii remake, didn't actually need that much polishing compared to the original PS2 game. The backgrounds look nice and detailed, Klonoa and friends are well defined and look considerably better. The game takes place in the dream world of Lunatea, composed of 4 kingdoms in danger of losing their peaceful balance by the sounding of a dark magical bell from a forgotten land. It is up to Klonoa and a new cast of friends, priestess in training Lolo and her sidekick Popka, in this daring quest to save Lunatea and help unveil its many mysteries. The experience of Lunatea's Veil made me really appreciate this franchise. Any qualms I had with the first game were pretty close to being solved in the sequel. Obviously, being a PlayStation 2 title, the graphical upgrade is noticeable. The more polished character models, new enemy types, and more complex use of 3D and platforming, and better boss battles make this a much more gratifying experience. The easy difficulty is still there, but not as noticeable when compared to the first game. This time around, I thought it was a bit more balanced and not just numerous easy to complete stages before one big battle. The story on the sequel is longer as well, allowing for more characterization and growth for our lead character and friends, but also the antagonist of the game. Having a seasoned veteran like Klonoa team up with newbies gives the game a richer feel in its storytelling. One upgrade I really enjoyed was the usage of perspective when it came to the platforming. Not just side to side, but literally way up and down as you reached newer heights to perform cool tricks, escape enemies, or just reach new areas in the stage. The inclusion of board riding was also unexpected. I really enjoyed the sense of speed as I played through a level trying not to fall and collect all the gems for more lives. The boss battles, like I previously mentioned, are a little bit more challenging, not super complicated or anything, but still fun to play and beat. Similar to the first game, Lunatea's Veil has a wonderful story of human emotions personified by these whimsical characters in their quest to restore the kingdoms. It is the actions of Klonoa and friends that will eventually teach the inhabitants of the Lunatea kingdoms to befriend one another and work towards a better goal. As I mentioned earlier, this was my first time experiencing the world of Klonoa. Between the cute characters, the hilarious made-up language, and the surprisingly emotional stories, this was quite the success. Having zero nostalgia or any attachments of the original, I was able to fully enjoy these remakes without making comparisons, though I did find it amusing going back and forth with the game and videos online to spot the differences. Bandai Namco mentioned sales would determine the future entry in the franchise, and judging from the reaction online, I think a new game is kind of inevitable. One of my few complaints about this collection is the fact that not all the Klonoa games are included, and you know they could make room for them. You could have the GBA games, Wonder Swan, and even that weird obscure volleyball Klonoa game. Come on, guys. Overall, this game has smooth controls, easy gameplay but fun to master, a memorable cast with a different style of storytelling for platformers. Difficulty may not be an issue, but there is a lot of fun to be had by 100%ing the game. If you haven't tried out Klonoa, these remakes are a fantastic way to experience the ingenuity of an era that birthed the standards for 3D platforming. A real underrated gem from the 90s, and for a decently priced physical edition, this one's a no-brainer.